I thought I knew what to expect going into the Pamir Highway, but the reality was completely different. There were moments where I felt amazing, and then other times where I felt exhausted, overwhelmed, and quite frankly, not prepared. So a lot of you have been commenting on my Pamir Highway posts on Instagram and also on my blog. So I decided why not make a quick video to help answer some of your questions, because I know a lot of you are going in May. So if you guys are thinking of doing the trip, I'd like to share what it's really like, not just the highlights and the things that people don't generally talk about. So let's jump into it. So number one, you can't just show up. You require permits, you require planning. If you want this trip to go smoothly, you are going from 7 to 10 even more days off the grid, no internet. You really want to make sure that you're planning everything in advance in order to have as smooth of a trip as possible. So you require the GBAO permit in order to go along the Pamir Highway. There's no getting out of this one, so make sure that you get this in advance. I recommend getting it through your tour operator, which is what we did. So we paid a little bit of extra money and then they took care of all the permits for us, so we didn't need to worry about it. So we negotiated the permit to be part of our package, and I think we paid around $20 US each. And for us, it was worth it to not have to deal with the hassle. But I have read articles where other people have gone themselves directly to the office in Osh in Kyrgyzstan to get the permit, and it cost them around $2 US. So if you're on a budget, you can definitely try and do it yourself, but I personally haven't done this, so I can't give you any advice on that. Once you do get your permit, it's a slip of paper about this big and it's small enough to fit in your passport. Keep this permit with you because you will be going through multiple checkpoints along the Pamir Highway. If not, I think they checked it maybe every single day, so please don't throw away the permit. They want the physical copy, so just make sure you keep that on you. I just kept it inside of my passport. Now, in terms of planning, if you're going with a tour company, of course, they will give you a pre-planned itinerary. It's up to you to choose how many days you want to do, but I strongly recommend that you take a look at the itinerary because there might be some activities in there that you're not interested in, and it would be such a waste of time to go all that way and then realize that the itinerary is not something that you want to follow. For example, it's important to note whether or not you like hiking because there are a lot of opportunities along the highway. For example, you can go to Giza village or you can do the Angos Metal Peak hike. So just make sure you know what you're signing up for, because I would hate for a non-hiker to have that in their itinerary. Well, if you don't like hiking, you can spend the day at the hot springs instead. I wrote a full breakdown of my itinerary, the costs, and how to plan this yourself, and it's all in the link below. So just have an idea of what your focus is and have some main attractions that you want to visit, because you might not be able to get to visit all of them due to unforeseen circumstances. It might be the weather, for example, or road closures. So just keep an open mind, but have that list of things that you want to do, and don't be afraid to ask them to change the itinerary so that you get the best experience that works for you. Number two, this is not your regular road trip, so this is why I would highly recommend that you hire a driver. I know when you're looking at all the costs and everything, it might feel natural to say that you want to save money and skip out on a driver. I would strongly suggest against this, and just because the Pamir Highway itself is so off the grid. You need to download offline maps. There's no internet connection anywhere, no Wi-Fi, so you're really on your own. Nobody speaks English. Google Translate for Tajik is not great. Of course, most people do speak Russian, but again, it's difficult. A driver can help you manage cultural expectations that you might not be aware of, especially during border crossings. Also, for example, we were pulled over a few times by soldiers. Sometimes they wanted a bribe, so we had to give them a few cigarettes. Other times they would give us a giant bag of bread and ask us to deliver it to the military base. So just having a driver with you really helps you navigate these situations. The roads also aren't always regular roads. Of course, you need a 4x4 to be able to drive along the Pamir Highway. We experienced a lot of construction. There's times where the road just tapers off and you have to drive through a body of water, and having someone that's experienced will really just allow you to enjoy the views without having to stress about the drive. I actually put all of these tips and more in a mini survival guide, and you can download it in the link below. Don't forget about the altitude and the environment that you're going into. So at the highest point, you're going to reach around 4,655 meters. meters. I'm someone that gets altitude sickness pretty easily, so I was feeling it in my head. I was feeling nauseous, my head was pounding. Everyone else in the group was fine, but it is something that happens. I would just recommend to stay hydrated. Take it easy if you can to kind of spread out the days so that you're not increasing altitude so quickly, and don't panic. If it is your first time dealing with altitude, you might not understand the symptoms, but because you're driving, you're going to be descending quite quickly, especially if you're coming from the Kyrgyzstan side in Osh and then going to Dushanbe. I was just feeling unwell just for maybe about an hour, and then after that we were just losing altitude quite quickly. The environment in general can be pretty hit or miss. It's hard to tell with the weather. For example, it was quite warm when we left, but when you reach higher altitudes it does get cooler. So the first night it was actually quite cold. I was wearing my puffer down jacket, my base layers, my toque and everything. And then during the day you're in a t-shirt because the weather does change that quickly. So you do have to have multiple layers of clothes for different temperatures and just be prepared for that. Some people I've seen, they've driven through the snow. We didn't see any snow at all. And this experience might have just been unique to our group, but the AC wasn't working in the car, even though we had paid for an air-conditioned car. And sometimes during the drive, dust would be coming through the vents into the car, so it would get quite dusty in the car because the roads are quite dusty and sometimes there's construction. So I wish that I would have had some kind of mask just to protect my face and my lungs from the dust. So I had like a buff or a scarf around my face, but it would be really helpful to have a mask. But again, I don't know how often dust gets into the actual car. Most of all, it gets quite hot during the day and the sun will be hitting you through the car the entire day. So we like to rotate positions within the car so that one person wouldn't be sitting in the sun the entire day. But sunscreen is your friend. Having a baseball cap to protect your face, and then also just having a jacket, not necessarily to wear, but just to drape over your arm so that you're not getting hit by the sun on only one side. Number 4, thinking about logistics. So the most important tip that I have for you is to bring water. This, I didn't know about it in advance. We had kind of heard a rumor and we weren't sure whether or not we should take it seriously. I'm so glad that we decided to take it seriously. We went to the store the morning of and we bought about 2 liters per person per day. So we bought these huge jugs of water and put them in the trunk of the car, and we brought it with us for the entirety of the Pamir Highway trip, and you will be so glad if you do. So listen to me, I'm talking to you. If there's one thing you do, please bring water with you. We did not see a single place to buy water until about day 6 in Horog, where they have an actual market where you can buy things. At the guest houses, they don't sell water. We stopped at little markets along the way. They don't sell water. They sell fizzy drinks, they sell beer, juices. In fact, we had even met another tour group who had told us they didn't know about the water thing, and for 3 or 4 days they were just drinking fizzy drinks and juices because they couldn't find any water and they felt so sick. Next thing would be ATMs, so don't expect to find any ATMs along the Pamir Highway. Plan this in advance, whether you're in Dushanbe, whether you're in Kyrgyzstan, or whether you're even ordering cash back home. Make sure that you have enough cash to cover you for the entirety of the trip, and make sure you have both Kyrgyz som and Tajik somoni, because you will spend at least 1 night in Kyrgyzstan at the Yurk camp by Tulparkul Lake. And I forgot this. Thankfully, I did have a little bit of Kyrgyz som left, but it was barely enough to cover because I just wanted to get rid of it. But you will definitely need both currencies on the trip. And the last tip that I would share with you is just be flexible and enjoy your time on the Pamir Highway. Yes, you can plan everything, but you cannot control how things will turn out. For example, the 3rd day our plan was to stay in Langar, but we ended up staying in Zong instead because all of the accommodations were full. But you know what? It turned out to be even better because Zong was so beautiful. It was filled with nature, these streams. It felt a lot more authentic and less crowded because everybody stays in Langar versus Zong. So it was a nice surprise for us. It was actually our resting point. So we spent 2 nights there and it was the perfect place for us. So just be open to the different experiences. Another one for me was Gizev village. We were really on the fence about this one because we had read that you had to hike there and we knew how hot it got during the day. So to be honest, we almost skipped it. Like it was a 90% chance that we weren't gonna go, and in the end we decided, let's just give it a try. We put on our hiking boots and we went to Gizev, and you know what? It turned out to be my favorite side quest or my favorite trip along the Pamir Highway. The village was stunning. The families were so kind and generous and just so happy to see us there. And because you have to hike to get there, not a lot of people take the journey, but for me it was so special and it felt like a glimpse into the rural life of these Tajik families. If you can, I would recommend going to Gizev. If you're planning this trip, don't forget to download my mini survival guide below and it'll save you a lot of stress. I hope you found all of these tips helpful and you feel a little bit more confident going into your Pamir Highway trip. I'm really excited for you. If you have any questions, don't be shy, just leave them down below and I'll try and answer all the comments. And wishing you happy and safe travels ahead. Thanks for watching.